Hello and welcome to Recharge Wrestling. We're here to plug you into the world of Recharge Wrestling. I'm Fisher and I'm back with Topmarks and Skidmarks. Sorry, it's been a while and I nearly forgot the title of the show then. And just me again this week. Apologies for the lack of content since Money in the Bank. You know, we did our previews before it. We've had loads of great videos from the event. If you haven't seen them, go check them out on the channel. But yeah, not much since then. Been very, very busy. But yeah, Money in the Bank was a great show. We were all there live. Loved it. We'll be going to All In as well in August. So looking forward to that. But let's talk about the last week of TV because it's been a while since we discussed the weekly shows. Top Marks, Skid Marks as usual. And then I'll do my favourite thing from the week at the end. Not as many Skid Marks this week, which is good. Always a good sign when there's more things I liked than didn't like. So let's start with the stuff that I did like. And we'll start with Collision last Saturday. FTR versus Bullet Club Gold. This was probably the best TV match of the week, I want to say. Maybe not, but certainly right up there. Just a great sort of 25 minutes of wrestling, good tag team action. They're having another match again this week, which kind of, maybe it oversaturates it slightly, but in terms of the actual match itself, excellent stuff. Really, really enjoyed that. And FTR, always great in the ring. Good to see Juice Robinson and Jay White getting a really sort of good showing as well. Jay White has been his booking's been a bit mixed, I would say, since he joined AEW. So that was good. There is one other thing from AEW, so I'll stick for that, and that is the return of Pac at the end of Dynamite. I completely forgot about Pac, really not being around much. I would love him to be on the All-In card, obviously being from England makes sense. And for him to be the extra man in the Blackpool Combat Club gang for Blood and Guts match is a really, really cool way to bring him back, and I'm excited for that. So that was cool, and he also got Kota Ibushi on the other side, which is great too. But yeah, Pac for me, like being a piece of the AEW puzzle, is exciting that he's back in time for All In. I'll go over to NXT. There was one thing from NXT. There was a few good things from NXT, but one thing that stood out was Ilya Dragunov versus Bron Breakker. This is the NXT of old. Two great wrestlers just having a really good match. Ilya is fantastic to watch. Just really, really good stuff there in a number one contenders match. Really enjoyable wrestling from those two on NXT. And the rest is sort of WWE main roster stuff, so I've got a few things from that. Let's start with Smackdown. Two things from Smackdown. One is a really, really good top mark, but it's also got a negative side effect, which we'll talk about when we get to the skid marks. So the Bloodline section was fantastic, and it would be my top mark of the week, but it did have a slightly negative effect on the rest of the show because it went so long. It was 35 minutes opening segment, plus you got, I think, 5 or 6 minutes at the end as well, when Jey Uso returned to challenge Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. So it's a lot of TV time, nearly half the show. And that's okay if it's meant to do that and you haven't advertised some other good stuff on the show which you want. You've got Edge on there, you've got women's segment, you've got AJ Styles versus Karrion Kross, you've got Austin Theory versus Sheamus, all this other stuff on the show as well to book, and it felt very rushed, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the Bloodline storyline itself was fantastic. Roman's acting, getting on his knees, crying, and then eventually delivering the low blow. Big brawl. The brawl could have been shorter, I think, but it was very, very good. Just dramatic. Bloodline brilliance again. From consistently the best storyline in wrestling at the moment for the last year or so. Just brilliant stuff again with all of them, and looking forward to what comes next with Jey and Roman at SummerSlam, we assume. Roman didn't accept the challenge, but surely that's what's going to happen. Brilliant segment. Delighted with where this storyline's going. Obviously, we got to see the Civil War match in person live, which we haven't really spoke about on camera, which was fantastic to watch, and we were loving it. And especially Jey pinning Roman was a big shock. So really cool stuff. And yeah, just great storyline again. But like I said, it did have its negative side. The other thing from SmackDown is Grayson Waller. Obviously, again, we saw him live have his moment with John Cena, which was so cool, having seen that moment with Cena live in person at Money in the Bank. But Grayson Waller, I think I criticised the booking of him a few weeks ago because he was just not in a feud, not having matches, not doing anything. But now he's had back-to-back segments with Cena and Edge, two top stars, and then finally made his SmackDown debut in a good match against Edge. Did lose, but Edge put him over by saying, it was time to sink or swim, and he swam. So put him over in defeat, which I always like that kind of mentality. And yeah, just Grayson Waller could be a big star for WWE if they book him right. I hope they don't go down the same route as Austin Theory, where they've kind of lost his spark. But I think personally he has a bit more personality than Theory and could go further. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know how WWE see it, but yeah, I really like Grayson Waller, and I think they did a good job with the booking of him on this show, and he delivered in his match as well. It was very good, even though he lost. And then over to Raw, couple of things to mention from that. Ricochet, good to see him in a big spot, cutting promos on his own. Don't often see him doing sort of that kind of thing in the ring. Delivered it pretty well. His flip outside the ring to Logan Paul, which he obviously, there's a thing that he did with Velveteen Dream back in NXT way back, was really cool to see. Logan Paul sold it well as well, and his comebacks were good. And I'm excited for this program. I think it's going to be a good match. I wanted it to be LA Knight versus Logan Paul, seeing what we saw at SmackDown and Money in the Bank when we were there live. We were saying to each other, it's clearly LA Knight being Logan Paul's the direction, but maybe they'll do that down the line. But they're not doing it here, which is slightly disappointing. But I'm pleased for Ricochet to be in a big spot. And he's deserved it, and this has kind of been going since the Royal Rumble in a way, because they had that viral moment, didn't they, at the Rumble. So yeah, really cool for Ricochet in particular. I want to be positive about Shayna Baszler as well, and Ronda Rousey. Again, we were there live when the turn happened in person. We were shocked. This just kind of felt out of nowhere, but it has made Shayna and Ronda so much more interesting. We didn't do a show last week about Shayna's promo, but I thought that was the best promo of her WWE career, certainly on the main roster so far. And these two, because they know each other so well and they're friends in real life, they're both really motivated in this feud, it feels like, and it feels like a huge match, genuinely, between the two. I think they had the tag titles and they were trying to elevate the tag division, but it wasn't really working. It was just boring. But here, now, this has got some genuine heat behind it. The fans are reacting. Baszler is like the NXT Baszler that Triple H always booked well and loved, which is cool to see. And then Ronda's also been quite badass as well. So I'm really up for this feud. It's made me much more interested in both people. It's elevated them both in my eyes, and I think in a lot of fans' eyes, judging by the reactions from the crowd. So yeah, very happy with that feud and the way that's going, and good to see it. And then the other thing from Raw was Tommaso Ciampa and The Miz having a good match. I like having we get a lot of, match types on AEW where it's hardcore kind of matches and that. But on WWE TV, we don't seem to get many of them. And when they do, it's a nice treat. And I think Miz and Ciampa here delivered a really good match that the crowd were into. Table spots involved, chairs, everything. And then, controversial finish with Bronson Reed helping The Miz win, which I think will set up a DIY reunion so that Ciampa can get some help against Miz and Bronson. That's what I'm expecting, and I'm all for it. That sounds a lot of fun to me. So yeah, as long as that is the direction, I like that. If in the next couple of weeks Johnny Gargano doesn't appear, I may change my mind on that. But I like that finish for now. But the match itself as well was a lot of fun for a Raw TV match. And I think for the top marks, other than my very top mark of the week, that is it. A few skid marks to talk about. We've mentioned it already, I might as well talk about it. The overrun on SmackDown. The rest of the show felt so rushed, and it is a problem with it being a 2-hour show. The Bloodline segments are so good, but they'd be better if they were Raw, because then it wouldn't saturate the rest of the show. SmackDown feels like at the moment it doesn't have much wrestling on it. It's too segment heavy. And I like segments, don't get me wrong. Waller and Edge also had a talking segment on this show. But the women's Money in the Bank title segment thing they did with Asuka, be it Belair, Charlotte, Io and Bayley. Felt very rushed. It lasted about a minute. AJ beat Karrion Kross in such a quick amount of time. Sheamus and Theory, their match was okay, but again, it could have been more. Everything's felt a little bit rushed because of that. So this week, I hope SmackDown is paced a little bit better. They do as much. I don't know if Roman's even going to be on the show. If he's not, then it won't be. But hopefully they do, a 10-15 minute brilliant Bloodline segment, and then the rest of the show still gets to flourish as well. Because at the moment, the problem with SmackDown is it's carried by one thing, and when that one thing overruns, everything else feels even less important than it already does. And on the back of that, another thing I didn't like from SmackDown, no LA Knight on TV. What's with that? You're at NSG. I know he did do a dark segment, which has been put on the website and a digital exclusive. He did a segment with Hit Row. But again, they overran. But even without that, this was done before the show, so they weren't planning to put LA Knight on the show. Got to have LA Knight on TV at the moment. He didn't win Money in the Bank, which disappointed some people, but I get it. With Damien Priest, the storyline's good on Raw, it's fine. It's working. Didn't manage to get in my top marks, but I like what they're doing with Priest and Balor. But LA Knight's got to be kept hot and relevant and doing things. I think he should beat Theory for the US title. I think that would be the perfect. He's turned face. He's clearly feuding with heels. He was, the Logan Paul stuff, Hit Row, no one likes them. Have him be the next guy for Theory. Maybe at SummerSlam you do LA Knight v Austin Theory for the United States title. LA Knight wins that. He's not winning the world title when he comes in. That's been made perfectly clear. So let's have him have a mid-card run and have a reward for the fans for him being over and the fans being so into him. That will work for me. One small thing from NXT, it's nitpicking a little bit, but this is kind of a leftover thing from last week. But the booking of Schism is a bit weird, because I thought that they would lose last week in the Loser Leaves NXT match. Sorry about that little cameo there. Loser Leaves NXT match, but they didn't. And the reason why I wanted them to lose is I either wanted them to come back as Grizzled Young Veterans or on the main roster as Grizzled Young Veterans. And it looks like they're just carrying on with this Schism gimmick until they eventually run out their contracts, which I believe is in October sometime. I think it's disappointing. I'm disappointed with that. And where were the Creed brothers on the back of this as well, who lost? They weren't on SmackDown or Raw, so what's the plan with them? I think it was a wrong decision personally, but we'll see, because the Creed brothers are great and hopefully they'll have a good run on the main roster if they come up. But I think they should have had the opportunity here to pull the trigger and bring GYV back as themselves. One AEW segment to mention, and I didn't even hate this that much, but I think it's out of place, and it's the Harley Cameron QTV stuff. QT Marshall, it's always a bit of a nightmare with him on AEW TV. It's a waste of, John Morrison, or Johnny TV he's called, that's a terrible name by the way. Bit of a waste bringing him in and putting him involved in this, and just the Harley Cameron rap itself, the video, it was entertaining-ish. I didn't hate it, but man, really, are we really doing this? This doesn't feel very AEW, and I'm not sure about it all, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's my. I wanted to put something from AEW in there, and that for me was the thing that kind of stood out as the least good thing. And then my top mark of the week is from AEW this week, and it is Adam Cole and MJF. They are fantastic together. When they first got put together in the blind eliminator tournament, I was like, oh, that's predictable, and this is going to be a bit stupid, a bit crap. Then immediately they did an entertaining segment, and I was like, okay, I've got to give this a go. And just every week the segments have been so entertaining. And this week going to a bar, MJF trying to pick up ladies, then going back, Adam Cole's, they're playing AEW Fight Forever on the Xbox or PlayStation, whatever. And, they bond eventually, and Roderick Strong's involvement in this is intriguing as well. But the segments are comedy gold. Then they had a match as well, and they're good in the ring. And then even had a segment afterwards talking. So they've gone all in on this a little bit, and it's brilliant. I'm really, really enjoying the comedy segment of this. This is proper, entertaining sports entertainment stuff that AEW can do, as well as good, matches and wrestling. This is an example of the good storytelling that you can do. Whereas the Harley Cameron stuff, it feels a bit different and a bit weird. But yeah, really enjoying Adam Cole and MJF. I wonder where it's leading. Obviously, we've got All In at Wembley. Love to see them have their world title match there, which I think is where this is going. I think they'll get to they'll have their tag title match potentially, and then lose, and then have it at All In or All Out. I can't remember which one's first, but yeah, I can't wait to see where it goes. I'm looking forward to that. They're my main intrigue. When they come on the screen on AEW, I'm glued to it. There are other things I enjoy. You know, I zone in and out sometimes when it's long matches and things like that. But MJF and Adam Cole have me hooked. They really do. And that's it for this week. I've gone over quite everything that I enjoyed and didn't enjoy from this week, from SmackDown, Raw, NXT, Collision and Dynamite. They're the 5 shows we cover. Follow us on Twitter at RechargeWrestle for more, you know, to find out what we're up to. We post regularly-ish. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, it really helps. I'd really appreciate it. And we'll be back soon, hopefully with multiple man shows to discuss SummerSlam, All In, NXT shows that are coming up, everything really. So yeah, predictions as well will be for SummerSlam. So looking forward to all the stuff coming forward, and I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.